see the bridge. Is the wind noise too much? It's really a lot more breeze out here, a lot more wind than I was anticipating. So if that's the case, just let me know in the comments section. I'll move over to the car. Let's see here. Over the weekend, the family and I, we went to McMinnville to the Space and Air Museum. An absolutely incredible place to go visit. If you happen to be anywhere near McMinnville, I recommend going and checking out the Air and Space Museum. They have the Spruce Goose up there, and so we went and actually stood up inside the Spruce Goose. We didn't go on the tour. We probably should have, but we didn't go on the tour. We just went and checked out the museum, looked at all the different planes, and it's you know it's a big plane, but it is like even bigger than you could imagine. Like, I mean, it fills the entire museum from one end to the other. The wingspan does, and just being like underneath it and being near it, it was just absolutely incredible. Just the massive size of this plane, and just imagine it flying. It's just incredible. It would have just been a sight to see. Even outside of the building, I can't imagine it being like out here on the river or something like that. It would have just been incredible. So that was really cool. And then my other favorite part was the Blackbird. Oh my gosh, what a jet! It was just incredible. Like all the different planes and all the different stuff, jets, fighter jets, and all the stuff that they had going on there. It was that particular plane. Even my wife, like, she said the same thing. Just being next to it was just incredible. Like the energy that you felt from just this plane was just incredible. And so, anyway, very fun experience to do with the kids yesterday. So anyway, that's what I had done yesterday. So, sovereign debt crisis leading to a food crisis. Check it out. Look down in the description. It's happening right now. The dollar is strengthening. It's going to get even worse. And let's see. I miss Astoria. Love the bridge. Yeah, let me get out of the way there. Sound okay? Is the sound okay? So anyway, the sovereign debt crisis, as the world is suffering from a stronger dollar, it's going to get very impactful to the people individually when it comes to their life, because it's food, right? Food and energy are the most common things that everybody is going to need in life. I mean, it's the necessities. And food is probably the highest number one necessity out there. And everything is priced in dollars. Think about that. Everything is. And so when you have nations who have priced their debt in dollars, like they have sold bonds in dollars, they are due in dollars. And so it takes ever increasing amounts of them trying to come up with dollars in order to pay off their debts. And if they can't pay off their debts, they're not going to be able to buy food. And that's really what it's coming down to right now. And so these sovereign nations around the world are going to suffer from this as the dollar continues to strengthen, as the Federal Reserve continues to reel in the monetary tightening, reeling in those dollars. This is where, like, a lot of people were not anticipating this. I mean, everybody was expecting hyperinflation. I mean, they just knew it, including, like, the world, and everybody's suffering from it right now as far as an inflationary scenario goes, and they just don't understand what is taking place when it comes to the strengthening dollar and how that's going to impact the world. Well, the rest of the world needs dollars in order to buy food. That's what it comes down to, and they can't get them, period, right? So as they struggle with the ability to try and buy food, it's going to become very expensive for them. And if it becomes expensive for them, then it's becoming high demand, right? So think about this high demand for food that is going to be taking place going into the future. And who's the number one exporter of food? And energy, really, if you think about it. It's the United States, right? So food is the new oil. Yep, exactly. So anyway, as time goes on here, the United States is, although you think about, like, we have very little stuff that we export except for food, and food's going to become very expensive and in high demand. What's going to end up happening is going to have a double whammy on us, because a lot of people don't realize this is what's really going to cause a major problem going into the future, is because as the food crisis continues and the high demand for food increases, the price of food is going to go up, and then the investment into food is going to grow. At some point, there will become a supply of food again. Now, I don't know how far out down the road that's going to be. It's going to take some time, but at some point there will become a supply of food that comes on to availability again, and everybody who invested heavily into the production of food to take advantage of the high prices are going to start to fail. Very much like the trucking industry right now, who had overexpanded their operations in order to take advantage of high prices, only to find them that they are suffering now with, no longer having like all that demand for trucking that once existed. It's fallen off a cliff, and now they can no longer make their debt payments from the overexpansion that they had done. Did I say all that right? Okay. So anyway, that's kind of how I see taking place into the future, as far as like what it is that we should experience from like the sovereign debt crisis and leading into a food crisis, which is eventually going to cause the prices of food to just go through the roof. So if you're rich, no big deal, right? Because like, your expenses into food is very minimal, considering like you say your monthly income, or your yearly amount of, compared to how much you earn a year, or how much you spend on food compared to how much you have. When you're poor, food is everything. It's like everything. And I know, because I was poor at one time, and when I got poor, it sucks being poor. So you got to be good at being poor, I guess. And that's where like farming was like really it for me. I built up a hobby farm so that I could grow more than I was actually consuming, and then I could trade for the things that I didn't produce myself. And it's amazing on how much you can actually produce on a very small amount of property. It doesn't take much at all. So, anyway, how's the sound? Is the sound okay, guys? Oops. Food plants mysterious burning down. Yeah, food processing plants. Here, let me get out of the way for you guys so you can see the bridge a little bit. All right, should we stockpile food right now? Yeah, it's not so much like the stockpiling of food. It's being able to preserve food. I think that's probably going to be the bigger one. Like, if you could stockpile food, that's cool. But if you have to bail out or move, or goes into Mad Max scenario, not that I'm anticipating that, it's not so much the possession of having possession of a year's supply of food. It's being able to process food, because you're going to find there's going to be times of abundance, but you're not going to know what to do with it. Like, if you're like, just say, for example, somebody comes to you with 100 pounds of fish, right? Like, you can freeze a bunch of fish, but can you really process fish so that you can store 100 pounds of fish for like a year or two? If you know how to can and have canning supplies on hand, then you're going to be able to deal with that. So if there's a food crisis that you're going to experience because you happen to be poor, learn to can. It's not that expensive to get a bunch of canning supplies. And if you think about the lids and rings, that is really what you truly need, because the jars are reusable. Just be adamant about keeping your jars. Don't throw them away. Make sure you're careful with them so that you don't break them or chip them or anything like that, and you'll be fine. I knew people who would produce more, or cook more than what they would normally do, so that they could can it at the same time. Like, that was just part of how they did it. They just produce, I keep saying produce, just cook more than what they would normally do, just for that purpose of canning it. Anyway, moving on. So I guess the sound is okay. Can you smoke fish? You can smoke fish. Jeez, that's how my dyslexic sounds fine. Good. Okay, thank you. Let's see here. To cure it, you can smoke fish. Okay. Don't need to can fish for a year. Just put water in the bag. Hello. Alright, the big bucket of chicken in New York was $44 last week. Wow. Yeah, speaking of which, going up to McMinnville to hang out with the family, we stopped, had lunch or breakfast at the Berry Patch in Westport just before Classic and I. So between Astoria and Classic and I, as you headed down Highway 30, there's a little restaurant called the Berry Patch. Excellent place to go to if you're ever down Highway 30. Stop there to have lunch or breakfast or whatever. And then we had, tacos at a taco stand up in Nehalem. Is that where we were at? Anyhow, stopped along the way up in the hills up there and had tacos at this little taco stand, which was really good. And I have to thank everybody who has donated to the channel through PayPal. It's really, I tell you, the family absolutely loves it, because when I pull out that PayPal card, they know exactly where that came from. And Freddie says it too. It's just like, Dad, are the fans paying this time? And I'm like, yeah, but the fans are paying this time. So I thank you guys so much for donating through the PayPal, because that's what I use those donations for, is for taking the family out to eat. So when we have these outings like this, you guys are really buying us lunch and dinner when we do this, and it's great for the family to experience that, because that's not something I really got to do with them when I was basically poor. I mean, I still feel poor, although I have the ability to pay my bills now, so that's like something I didn't really have before. But still, it's weird. I have this, like, I guess this, I don't know, this mental condition where I feel like I'm still like just broke as could be, and like going out to eat is like a difficult thing for me to do. But when you guys are so generous as you are, it makes it a hell of a lot easier for me to enjoy that kind of thing, and to take the family out, which I know they really enjoy and appreciate. So these clowns in the White House are more worried about January 6th than the real problems. Why? What's happening January 6th? Is that something I should be concerned about? All right, bro, you need to get another way to donate USD other than PayPal. I closed my account. Oh, well, I have PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and you can do like super chats through here. I've even had people actually send me checks in the mail. Just like, I mean, it still astonishes me that people, I checked my mail earlier. I was hoping that I would have something to read to you guys, but I didn't have any mail today. If you guys want to send me a piece of mail, P.O. Box 731, Astoria, Oregon, 97103. If you guys want to go, and you can also find that over in my About section. I love reading mail. Mail is my favorite. Just somebody who has taken the time to write me a letter is probably one of my favorite things in the world. So, anyway, what were we talking about? Sovereign debt, right? So what is it that, what do you guys think? That was something I was thinking about. There's going to be countries, we're going to find nations suffering around the world with a strong dollar, but not all nations around the world are really in a condition in which that they will suffer. Like, I mean, everybody's going to sink, right? Because as the tide recedes, all boats are going to go down. All boats are going to come, follow the tide. But some boats are sinking, like straight up sinking, regardless of the tide. They're going to go down. There's some nations out there, some emerging markets that are probably in better shape than anybody realizes, and nobody quite knows it yet, right? And so that's really, if you were to invest, like where you would want to be, you would want to be in the unappreciated, undervalued places, right? So we know that there's got to be places like that in the world that are emerging right now that we could invest in, but we don't know what they are. This is something I was thinking about. Here on this channel, we have something very unique as far as a collective mind, because of the conversations that we have on this channel. We could figure that out somehow through the comments section, to figure out how it is that we could send our money, or where it is that we could send our money to, in order to get the best return through the collective thought, right? So as people are, like, say, giving their best ideas and reasons and logic for why they're picking a position that they are, we could vote on those comments, and then through that collective thought be able to hopefully find what it is that is the best position for all of us to put our money, because the individual doesn't know it, but collectively we do, right? But how do you find that answer unless you do something like that? Anyhow, just an idea. Argentina. Okay, where does the U.S. debt to GDP go? Jeez, almost lost you guys. Where does the debt to GDP go from here? What is the point they have to reset the currency? I don't know. Like, I mean, I heard once the U.S., like, okay, from what I understand, and this is something that kind of concerned me, so once I saw the debt to GDP go, like, over 100%, they said that the nation has never done that without having, never come out of that without going into war. So once I saw that, I was just like, okay, well, that's that, right? So I didn't really need to pay attention much to it anymore to know that the only way we're actually going to get out of that is if we have some sort of crisis, like a war going on. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to think about those kind of things happening. So we'll find other things to talk about, right? The wind is distorting the sound. See, that's what I was wondering, guys. Do you want me to move back to the car? Just say it. If you need me to move back to the car, I will, because I don't have 199 people here right now. The Wall Street bets. Brazil. Some of your viewers are trying to manipulate through language. Too smart for that. Nice try. Every currency will inflate before the dollar gets the backdraft. Let's see here. Love the view, but a lot of wind noise. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, guys, about the wind noise. Let's move back to the car. It's just right over here. Oh, shit, I spilled some of my coffee. All right, ow. I'm getting old. So, yeah, we'll move back over here real quick. Thoughts on Hurricane Ian's effect on Florida's economy. On Florida's economy with massive amounts of new construction here. Lots new construction workers are homeless now and living in tents on the job site. Yeah, you know, it's funny because, not funny, I shouldn't say funny. It's an interesting thought to think about, like hurricanes and how much impact they'll have into the economy, housing market, and building supplies. And one thing that I found is that, I'm gonna put a windshield up, or not windshield, sunshield, is that it really affects like the plywood market, especially things like OSB. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Boy, great video, nice live stream. So come on, stay there. You're not gonna stay. It's gonna be a chicken. Okay, let's sit there for a second. It really affects things like plywood. Plywood seems to be affected quite a bit, and then you'll have like different segments of the market of lumber really get impacted, especially like the southern yellow pine market, because they're more prevalent down there than say the Doug fir market is up here. But once you start, you know, drawing away from one particular area, then, you know, you start pulling from another, and then the prices start to increase. So we are already in a position in which that there was a fly buzz in my face. We were already in a position in which that lumber was going to tighten up, and this isn't going to help matters any. But we're already on a way up for lumber prices anyways, and I just can't imagine them that we were going to go anywhere like significantly higher. 800 per thousand might be like the high end as far as my guess goes. That's even like with the impact from the hurricane and stuff like that. I still really only see 800 per thousand. Building is not really that big going on around the rest of the world, or rest of the country. You can see that with the slowdown in building permit issuance, and completions are still not ramping up like I thought that they might have by this point, at least not in the way that I was expecting it. But they are increasing as far as the completions go. But the new starts, that's the concern about it, because there's a gap in production taking place right now. And with that gap in production, that's going to leave, you know, not a lot of homes, new homes for inventory purposes coming onto the market. And again, like this the hurricane thing is not going to help matters at all. Anyway, moving on. Let's see, what time is it? I'm going to hang out here, guys, probably till about 5:15, 5:30 or so. So go and tell your friends that we're live streaming and talking economics and trying to figure out where the best place to put our money as far as emerging markets go after the strong dollar has destroyed the world. Heading into the winter, lumber going to go up. Yeah, I know. And I made that call a long time ago. Like, I made that call. When did we go to Miami? In June? So in Miami, George Gammon had a panel group, and I have a video down in the description, or not in the description, I'll put it down in the description after I post this video. But there's a video that I done a few months ago back in June where we were on a discussion panel, and Ken McElroy asked me, he said, what is going to happen with the lumber prices, or what do you think is going to happen with the lumber market over the next 6 months or year or something like that? I forget exactly what the question was. And so that's exactly what I told him. I said, right now, what we have is we have a slowdown from inventory or into the inventory. At the same time, we have a slowdown in building, right? So this gap in production that has taken place, like we had Canfor, um, I forget what other mills were up there, but anyway, they all of them talked about how they were going to go into curtailments and inventory depletions, and that started back in June. That's when I announced it. At the same time, we were having slowdown in housing. Now, I said as that happens, eventually that inventory is going to run out. When it does, you are going to find that the prices are going to go up. Now, something that I found interesting that a lot of people don't seem to talk about is that they say, okay, well, no, lumber prices are going to go down to 300, 200 per thousand or something like that. And it was just like, there's no way the mills are going to operate at 400 per thousand. That's it. Like at 400 per thousand, they're done. They're like shutting down. And it's not like all mills will shut down, because there's some mills who can operate at 400 per thousand. The problem is that the high cost, high output producers of the British Columbia area won't. And that's where the impact is going to come from, because as soon as they start shutting down their operations, then it's going to start depleting the amount of inventory of new lumber into the market, even if you have a slowdown in building, right? I mean, it's still, that doesn't matter. The British Columbia are pretty much, what direction they are going is going to impact the markets. And so anyway, yeah, going into winter, we have an inventory depletion. We have, like I said, Canfor saying that they are not going to even fire back up until the beginning of the year. So it doesn't look like there's going to be a whole lot of new production coming onto the market when you don't have a whole lot of demand coming from the building industry, because that's the only thing that anybody ever looks at, you know, and because really that's the major demand for lumber anyway, is coming from the new builders. All right. Would you consider live streaming dinner with your family, your whole family, your wife, your children, and yourself? You know, those meals that us YouTubers are paying for that you're always talking about? What? Well, okay. I mean, I guess if you're looking for, like, I have posted pictures, like I have done, like, say Snapchat. That was something that I kind of used to be common for me to do. Gosh, I'm having a hard time. I'm like stuttering today. Um, like I would do a video of the meal that we had ordered, all the meals, and have like my business card, and then I would post the location of where we were at with like a filter of, like, hopefully they had a filter advertising that particular restaurant. And so I would post that for on like Snapchat, and did that quite a few times for people. As far as like sitting down and like watching us have a meal, I don't know, that it's a little personal. I mean, that might be, you know, a little too much. So, all right, that's his personal business, bro. Yeah. Wow, kind of rude. Yeah. Well, hey, I took it. Hey, rude or not, it was a question, right? I mean, and so if you wanted an answer, that was an honest answer. I'm all about privacy. Let our friend maintain some, please. Yeah. Uh, okay. Is iBond still worth buying? I would be concerned about bonds over the next, you know, until like you hear like the actual pivot taking place. I think bonds are going to continue to have problems. I think yields are going to continue to rise, which means that, you know, most bond assets are gonna you know, come down. Um, so I personally am not a fan of anything like you know, fixed income debts kind of thing. Like I'm not a fan of that right now. Um, what I'm more like kind of looking at as far as like what I think would be more of like a possible good generator of money, seems to be rental incomes. Like that seems to be the one thing that stays hot, that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Um, I don't know if that'll last forever, especially if jobs start to fall off. Like if you have really a nice spike in unemployment or something like that, then you might see where rental incomes are not the lucrative business that they are right now. But as far as I can tell, it seems to be where the big money is put in there. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, what do I know about all this stuff, right? We're trying to figure it all out. All right, 242 of you. I'm glad you all came back now that I moved back into the car because it was too windy outside. Hit that like button, please. It'll go. God, that sounded like begging. Hit the like button if you like. It's going to grab the video and go and spread it around YouTube for more people to come in here and we can hang out and have some more conversation for the next, say, hour. How much for the Camry? Well, it's a Corolla. And, I'm just not, I don't know. Like, I was thinking about it the other day because I really want to get a car, and I'm hoping that Chevrolet will just send me a new Camaro. I don't know how they would just send me one, but I don't know. Maybe they'll figure it out and just send me a new Camaro. If that happens, then maybe we'll turn the Corolla into, like, a good donation to somebody. I don't know. Or do we keep it as a studio? I mean, I could do it either way. I don't really want to sell it. I'd rather just give it to somebody who can, because it's not going to really last forever. It's kind of a hammered car. I mean, it runs good. Don't get me wrong. It runs just fine, but it is, like the windows broken, shit's falling apart. Anyway, no, this is the perfect studio. It really is. So, like, I just can't see myself, like, getting rid of it. I mean, it's kind of part of the channel now. And, you know, it's so funny. Like, I remember this lady had come to me and she was just like, oh, the uneducated economist. I love that idea with the car and the dice and the jacket. And I'm like, yeah, that's my car and my dice and that's my work coat that you're seeing there. You know what I mean? It's like it's out of show. That's my life, All right, 10 on the dice. Yeah. All right, where would you invest 20K right now? I wouldn't. I don't think I would invest any money right now. Like that to me doesn't to me like investing money right now is really pretty risky. Like to me, strong dollar is going to continue. The emerging markets are going to continue to come down as far as like their issues with the strong dollar and their debts that are due in dollars and having to buy commodities and food and energy in dollars. All that's going to put a lot of pressure, but there's going to be a nation out there. Like I said, I'm sure of it. It's just my feeling, or maybe a stock or something out there that's done it. But to me, it feels like there's going to be a nation to invest in that's going to do really well when the recovery takes when things start to move again, when the pivot actually starts to take place and the rebuild begins. And it's not going to happen fast. It's going to be really slow. So it's going to be hard to know which one it is, as that recovery is like very cumbersome to actually present itself like as like, yeah, that's the actual place you want to be. Yeah. It's an open door going bankruptcy. My car is 2002, 206,000 miles, still going strong. Ford Mondeo. Let's see here. Getting a car and a TV studio for a same price is some next level economics. Yeah. So, does the Fed care about employment rates? Yes, absolutely they do, but they don't care about it in the sense that they're worried about the people themselves. What they want is to bring down the consumer demand and get help from the supply side. So they're going to help out the inflation side by killing the consumer, and to kill the consumer, what you have to do is prevent them from earning money, right? And the best way to keep them from earning money is to get the unemployment to rise. And the best way to get the unemployment to rise is to raise the interest rates to the point that the zombie corporations out there who have been gorging on incredibly cheap debt, who can no longer afford to roll their old debt over into new debt, begin to go bankrupt, and they lay off all their employees. That's what the Federal Reserve, that's what I think the Federal Reserve, I mean, they've said it over and over again, that they are wanting to raise the unemployment rate. And how else you going to do it? Like unless you kill small businesses, which is the biggest employer in the entire country, you're going to have to kill off the zombie corporations, which is a lot easier to do because all you have to do is just raise the interest rates, and the viable corporations who were smart about it during the pandemic sold all their debt off while the credible threat of the special purpose vehicle was out there that the Federal Reserve and the Treasury had established in order to get the markets to go out there and buy up all that debt so the Federal Reserve wouldn't have to, which actually did the bailing out of these corporations during the recession that a lot of people don't realize happened. So now a lot of these corporations are sitting on cash. They don't need to worry about a bailout coming from the government or somebody else. And as the Federal Reserve raises the interest rates, those corporations who didn't hold on to the cash and the stockpile of cash is actually not there, right? Not like the ones who were smart about it, and they're not going to be able to survive. So they're going to go under. Did I say all that right? Dude, I drive an '02 Acura RSX with 240,000 miles, falling apart, but costs only gas and insurance. Save your money, people. Yep, I totally agree. Like, I mean, again, like, okay, so this weekend, taking the family up there, it cost me gas to go to Portland. Like, we bought a membership, a year-long membership to the Maritime Museum, and with that this year they had a promotion that they had museums and aquariums all over Portland and Oregon that you could drive to and get free admission to if you had the membership, right? So we bought the membership for the Columbia River Museum, which is actually a fantastic, it's a world-class museum. If you ever have the chance to, when you're in Astoria, to go to the Columbia River Maritime Museum, it's well worth it. It's well worth it. It's a great museum. So anyway, that's how we were able to go to the Air Museum and Space Museum yesterday. It wasn't like how we were able to, it's just that it gave us the reason to go up there is because we had free admission this month. And next month is going to be the Newport Aquarium, so we're going to try and do that one of the weekends next month. It's a pretty good deal. Anyway, not having to worry about major car payments makes those trips a lot easier to do, because if you had a $500 plus insurance and gas and everything else that costs you for a vehicle, it's like, most people don't realize they spend like $1,000 a month driving a car, right? This car cost me $500 2 years ago, right? Or better than 2 years ago. And the insurance on it is really cheap, and the gas on it, I get still 28 miles to the gallon or something ridiculous like that. I put gas in it every once in a while. Like, this thing doesn't cost me anything to drive. Like, the liability of this vehicle is very low, and the asset side of it is very high if I'm looking at it for transportation reasons. And considering that I live outside of town now, it makes it a very useful tool. Anyway, oh, hey, cool, right on. $1.99 from Tom. Do you have Cash App? Yes, I do. If you go and look at the About section of my page, of my YouTube channel, I have all the, address to my P.O. box and, email address and, all the links to, all the stuff. Somebody gave me a hard time one time about, how come you put all this stuff for tipping? Just to let you know, I was by request. It was by viewers' request that I put all those things up there. I never asked for tips, and when they came in, I didn't know, to me it was like a feeling of overwhelmed. I was like, whoa, the first time somebody sent me a few dollars on PayPal, it was like I couldn't believe it. It was just like, wow, what an amazing gesture, to give me $10 for a video. And I was just so taken back by it. I just couldn't believe it. And then it happened a few more times, and then a big one came in. It was $100, and my whole family was just you gotta think, this is during a time when we were broke. $100 was a lot of money to me. And we're all sitting around and we're looking at the app, and we're just amazed that all of us are staring at this $100 tip that came in, and we were all like, wow, isn't this amazing that somebody was so generous to do this? That's why they're so appreciated. That's, they never had that in their life before. I never had it in my life before. So, you guys are awesome. Hey, thank you very much, Jaws. Great to see you here. $4.99, super awesome of you. Thank you. The corporations with all the money buy back their stocks super cheap as the markets tank. Off topic, when is the best time of year to visit Astoria? If you're looking for weather, then you got good 3 months out of the year. You got the summertime months, and that's really when you're going to get your best opportunity. Right now, this October is unreal. I mean, the weather right now is just so awesome. It was opening day of duck season this weekend, yesterday, Saturday was. And I think, like, I used to be an avid duck hunter. When I was a kid, I was just like, I would have been out there, like, spending the night getting ready to hunt them birds in the morning. And so this morning, like, I live really close to the river now, so I could hear them going off. Like, I could hear them duck hunters, first thing Saturday morning going off. And I was like, it just, like, it, I was thinking out there, I'm like, oh man, I wish I was out there. And I'm looking at the weather and I'm like, in shorts and a tank top, man. I mean, out there duck hunting and, like, in your bathing suit because it was so nice out. But yeah, this is not typical for this time of year. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, so when's the best time? Yeah, those are the best times. Now, it depends on what you're looking to do. Like, there's fishing season. So if you're looking to do, like, if you want to, do some fishing, then you would probably want to pick out the months that for the season of fish that you want to go for. Um, I like fall. Fall is my favorite time around here because chanterelles are like one of my favorite hobbies to go after, or mushrooms. Going and picking those gourmet chanterelles, which is a fun hobby. And then, of course, I go for all kinds of different foraging while I'm out there doing that. But they grow so plentiful around here that it's just like it's almost like like chanterelle season, that people call it that, and everybody goes for them. I mean, you see people with hundreds of pounds of them on Facebook and stuff. A shopping cart is free to travel, and you cannot just put a number on transportation. Some of us do care about our driving experience. No, absolutely, bro. Clear cut. I totally agree with that, and that's something that you have to really think about. Like, are you going to enjoy your life, right? So, like, a lot of people really enjoy their driving experience, like you said. Like, they might be like somebody who has to drive an hour a day commute, right? And in their hour to work and their hour home, they really want to be in a relaxed environment that's fun and enjoyable and everything about that. That is totally understandable. Like, I get that, right? I literally drive a max of 20 minutes to work. Like, that is the longest it takes me to get there. And don't get me wrong, for 20 minutes, I would probably really want to enjoy it. My Our buddy Mike, can you hear the dog? Can you hear the dog over there howling? He's howling at the sirens. He's a great dog. His name is Opie. Mike and his dog Opie. Anyhow, but I do understand that. Like, but I don't really have a need for a driving experience. Like, my driving experience is so short that, I mean, it's just not worth it to me because I would enjoy it for like 10 minutes, right? And then my experience would be over, and I just wouldn't enjoy that. So my experience is something different, right? Like, I experience the time I have with the family. So but it's totally understandable. Like, if I didn't have that, then I would be like, man, I mean, if I was driving to Portland 5 times a week, I would not be driving this car. I'd be driving something that is meant to drive distance and enjoy it. Like, that's what I'd be driving. So. Buy gold and silver or hold on to cash. Right now, I mean, well, it depends on why you're buying gold and silver, right? I mean, we've talked about this many times, and if you're buying gold and silver because you're anticipating that we're going into a hyperinflation scenario and that the dollar is going to be worthless soon and you're going to lose all your purchasing power, it didn't work. I'm sorry. Like, I am a firm believer in gold and silver. I buy gold and silver. Like, I got silver around my neck. I carry it around. Check it out. My ring. My wife bought me a new wedding ring, right? Because mine had disappeared during the move. But check it out. Let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, right there. It's made from a $50. Come on, camera focus. See it? Isn't that cool? So that's my wedding ring now. I like silver. I'm a firm believer in it. But when it comes to buying silver and the idea that it's going to be like going to the moon and you're going to have $500 an ounce silver soon and you're going to be able to buy, like, all kinds of houses and cars and stuff like that, I don't see that, right? I just, like, that's like something I did see one time. Like, I was like totally on board with that kind of idea. In fact, Max Kaiser really sold me on that whole idea, and I never forgave him for it. Like, I like Max Kaiser too. I think he has a lot of great information, but he was a pump and dumper when it came to silver, and I'll accuse him that forever, because that's exactly what happened. I mean, at the time that silver was at $50 an ounce, he had silver ounces that he was selling with his image on them. Right? What does that mean? So anyhow, buying silver as an insurance policy is where I'm at. That's how I do it. I am like totally out of the system when I buy silver. That's my mindset. And it's not like, like I am anticipating like being completely out of the system because they're going to have this systemic collapse and everything is going to fail. I don't, like, there was times that I did believe that. Like, I mean, I honestly was like, anticipating a failing dollar anytime soon. But when it doesn't occur, then you start to look at other reasons, right? You start looking at other things that are out there and why things are the way they are. And so that's why I am not so adamant to fall in line with the narrative that we have a hyperinflation scenario coming. I knew the strong dollar was coming. I knew we were going to have a strong dollar come and destroy the world. And it may not be experienced here in the United States like it's going to be experienced around the rest of the world. That's the problem with it. And so when you get into silver and gold, what you're doing is you are getting out of that third party claim. You don't have to worry about the banks opening up. You don't have to worry about an app. You don't have to worry about electricity. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. All you have to do is worry about how you are going to protect you and yourself and that and the people around you. So that's what silver is. That's what it is. It's an insurance policy. Now, if you are planning on doing something with it, then you're going to have to think about it a little bit differently as far as like how you're going to make money with it. That's a whole other discussion, right? And if you're asking my opinion, that's it. Like, there's no reason why you shouldn't buy silver or gold, right? But if your reasonings are for growing rich into the future at some point, I would question that. I mean, buy for whatever reason you want. I mean, at the end of the day, we both buy it for the same reasons, or not for the same reasons, but we both buy it, right? Whether or not it's for the same reasons doesn't matter. We both own it at the end of the day. But my mental state on it is don't worry about it. If you have a hope and dream that someday it's going to be like worth a lot of money in the future, then you're sitting on a want, right? And a want is a need, and a need is a negative energy, and negative energy will draw it away from you. You will not get what you are looking for. I guarantee you. Save it as an insurance policy, forget about it. It'll do what you want, right? It'll do just that. All right, thank you very much, Dumb Money Media, for the $5. What up, man? I put up 2 new shorts. If you are curious, one about Ben's and Nobel Prize, or Ben's the Nobel Prize, and biting eating ice cream. Haha. I got Klaus one coming tomorrow too. Well, go check out Dumb Money Media and check out the new shorts that he put out. I might do that myself once we end the live stream. Thank you very much for the $5. I really appreciate that. Did I see another one come up there? Nope, that was Jaws. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. Thank you very much, Brooke, for the $5. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see here. Mr. Cheerful, thank you very much for the $10. Lots of laugh. GBP. All right. What do you think? Everyone's saying pivot is coming soon and 5% inflation is when it happens. Will the interest rate start dropping after that? There is no pivot coming. I would not even, I mean, this is me personally. You believe what you want, right? Because plenty of narrative out there talking about how there's going to be this pivot and stuff like that. I do not believe that there is going to be any pivot anytime soon. There is nothing inside of the Fed's speeches that even remotely comes close to indicating that. Now, there's plenty of economists out there who might believe differently. Who will tell you how the Federal Reserve is screwing up the world, which they are, and they're intending on doing that. But there is nothing inside of their speeches or any of their comments that I have seen. Not maybe the media stuff might lend a little, lend a little bit towards that thought. But there's nothing inside of their speeches that has said anything about the idea of pivoting. So I would not take that stance personally. That's what I'm doing. Now, again, I could be wrong on that, right? I mean, there's plenty of people who call me out for being wrong all the time, and then there's other people who are completely amazed on how accurate I've been. I don't really know. Like, I mean, when it comes to being accurate or wrong, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I predicted. I mean, it's easy to point out, like, some of the stuff that I've gotten right, but then again, like, who's to say, like, time will tell, like, on a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't know how to put it. I just call it out the way I see it. I watched a informational film this morning that somebody had sent me talking about. I don't want to get this video flagged or banned or anything, so I'm not exactly sure how to talk about this particular topic without, like, just, and maybe nothing would happen anyway. So, but I never heard of this, and I asked my wife about it too, and I'm like, how is it that we look as much stuff as we do? Like, especially me, like, she doesn't look at that much stuff, but she listens to a lot of what I talk about. There's something out there. Let me see. Maybe I won't get in trouble for saying horse paste, right? Check out horse paste. It's a medicine. It's actually, there's like human version of this too, right? For consumption for humans. So veterinarians use it for a particular reason. And again, I don't want to get this video flagged for it. When I watched this informational film on this particular product and saw what it does for COVID prevention and treatment, I was just amazed. Like, a lot of these informational films, sometimes I don't take them, like, I take them with a grain of salt, right? It's just like, okay, so everything that you're looking at could be 100% propaganda and made up and not accurate or true at all, right? But then you see, like, the statements coming from professional people, and it's their words. I mean, it's their words that they're using, and they're not just taking it out of context. They're like, this is like literally what they are saying. When I saw that there was a treatment for COVID that was totally, like, the vaccines didn't work, right? First of all, like, I don't give a shit what anybody says. Everybody I know who got vaccinated got sick, and some people got sick twice from COVID, right? So they just didn't work. And as far as, like, oh, I kept people from getting as sick or whatever, BS, right? I don't believe it. I don't believe a single bit of that. Now, it's not up to me to believe whether or not you agree with that, right? If you agree with that statement, cool. If you don't, that's fine, man. Don't get mad at me for it. You believe what you want to believe. If you thought that it helped you out, that's cool. I mean, I don't have a problem with you doing the things that you think that you need to do in order to protect you and yours. That's like your decisions to make. I'm just going off of the observations that I have made by looking out there and trying to take a, like, non-biased approach to the whole matter, and say that this did not work. I mean, it just didn't work. I don't know where people think that it did. And so when there was a treatment out there that was provided to places like Japan and Mexico City that knocked this thing out in days, in weeks, they went from, like, huge surges to almost like zero cases, like, dropped it immediately. And yet this particular treatment was not even mentioned or talked about. And in fact, when it did, they brought it up in such a way that everybody was panicked about it and thought it was as bad as, like, guzzling Drano or some shit, right? So when this is the case that we experienced here, it was forced. They needed an unusual and exigent circumstance. There was no way that the Federal Reserve and Treasury were going to be able to establish those special purpose vehicles unless they had something as bad as COVID taking place. If they didn't have it, we would have gone into a horrible currency crisis. We were definitely on our way to it. If you go and you look at my videos towards the end of 2019, we were talking about how lumber mills and plywood mills were shutting down production. There was places like 100 Mile up in British Columbia area that were decimated with their mill permanent shutdowns. I mean, they were no longer going to be producing it. This could not have been the only industry. I look back at some of those videos that I was doing, and there was, what was it, Cummins Diesel? Like, they were talking about the massive amounts of layoffs and shortages and slowdown in production that they were going to go into, because the fact that the global growth had slowed down so. What the hell? Crazy, I never heard that one before. Global growth had slowed so much that the demand for stuff like this was going to fall off a cliff, and they knew it. The Federal Reserve knew that this was going to happen, and so that's why they had to have this special fucking. Sorry, guys, I don't mean to cuss. That's why they had to have this unusual situation take place, and that's where the pandemic really kicked in. I mean, if it didn't happen, you think about it, like if it didn't happen, the pandemic, we would be in a hell of a worse shape than we are right now, right? But because of that, they were able to do the stimulus and do the lifting of interest rates and do all this stuff that they were able to do, bail out them corporations with, the market doing it by the credible threats. When I go back and I think about the timeline and I start talking it out, it just seems so obvious to me. Like all these other people seem to be stuck on the Federal Reserve is going to destroy you with the lifting of, like, with the destruction of purchasing power of the dollar by all this money printing. And I'm like, don't fall for that, man. Don't even fall for that. It's not the case. And people are like, man, you can see it right there happening in lumber. I'm like, don't look at that. It's not the right one. You are missing it. If you are looking at lumber for an inflationary story, you're going to miss it, because you're going to find lumber back at the 500 per thousand mark and everybody's still going to be screaming inflation. Yeah. Man, I'm really going off. This is good coffee, yeah? All right. All right, cheerful. Okay, $2 from Osama. Thank you so much, man. Any working class finance channels you recommend? Um, I don't. I don't. Okay, guys. I don't mean any offense to any other YouTuber out there when I say that I do not follow any other YouTuber out there, and it's not because I don't like their information. I mean, I do. I appreciate their information. Monaco64, George Gammon, Steve Van Meter, all the guys, Heresy Financial, all these guys are awesome. I mean, every one of them. I mean, I appreciate it. Uh, Peter Schiff was one of my, like, favorite old-time economists when I was, in the early days of me studying this stuff. I mean, without his, with his comments and videos that he was putting out, I don't know if I would have ever, like, got a grasp of, like, the bond market and what the Federal Reserve is up to. I don't know if I would have ever got the grasp that I did of it if it wasn't for Peter Schiff. I mean, I listened to countless hours of that guy's stuff, and there is no, like, one channel. Like, even if they talk about the stuff that lines up with your beliefs, that's not the people you should necessarily watch. Like, you're just listening, like, the preacher to the choir kind of thing, right? What you want to do is you want to go to people who have opposition to your beliefs, and see if you can confirm or say maybe change the way you're looking at things. So, like, I couldn't even recommend somebody to say, hey, go and listen to this guy because he has the right message, or go and listen to this guy because he has the wrong message that you need to confirm your stuff with, right? So, like, which one is which? Like, what are you doing with the information? To me, there is no bad information. Even information that I think is incorrect, like the propaganda that I see going on out there, that's still part of it. Like, why are they doing this? What are they trying to get the people to believe? Why do they want them to believe that? These are all questions that you should ask yourself, and you can't really, like, understand that if you're just so opposed to it. Like, there's people who will not listen to a single thing that, a conservative will say, right? They're like, I mean, there's too right wing for me, Proud Boy, whatever. I'm not listening to anything they have to say. And then it was just like, okay, so now you wonder why it is that you're always poor and broke, right? Because you just don't understand how money operates, because most conservatives do, right? Liberals don't. I mean, I'm just trying to say, it's just an observation. I'm not saying that's the case. Man, there's some yelling going on. People are crazy. People are just nuts. Anyhow, what was I getting at? I don't know. Pay attention to everything out there. There is no one person that you should listen to. I follow a lot of Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg because they come out with articles very quick, right? They come out with topics very fast. You have to pay for those memberships, and it's worth it to me because, I mean, you got to have the current information. Almost everybody gets their information from those type of sources, those, like, the top newspapers, so to speak. I mean, that's where the information ends up landing first, and then everybody else kind of takes it from there. So I don't know how to say, like, who has the best information. I guess it's more of, like, how do you like to receive it? Like, do you like to confirm your bias, or do you like to try and figure out things that are, like, maybe change your beliefs so that you can confirm it, or maybe understand it differently? And there's a lot to look at out there. I personally, I use my Google feed a lot, and I do, like, kind of like a shotgun approach to things. I will scan through my Google feed and find headlines that I want to read, and I will save those headlines. Like I'll just go through and maybe pull 6 or 7 of them, and I'll do that first thing in the morning, like with coffee, and then as the time goes on, if I want something to read, I'll go and grab one of those articles and I'll read it. And it doesn't really matter who wrote it. Like I don't look to see who wrote a particular article. I'll just look for headlines, and if it catches my eye, then I'll read about it. If you're looking for like to be honest, one of my favorite ones right now is Freight Waves. Freight Waves has really nailed it for supply chain issues. Like if you really want to know what's going on in the supply chain, because the Federal Reserve is really counting on the supply chain to fix things, not their lifting of interest rates, because that ain't going to work. You're not going to be able to kill the consumer and, bring inflation down. What you're going to have to do is start providing products again, and that's not going to happen if you kill the supply chain like they did. So it's going to take a while before you see interest rates come down. I mean, it's not in their plan. But I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. What else are we talking about? Wow, lots of comments. Oh my gosh. Greetings from West Palm Beach, Florida. Right on, bro. You got a pew-pew in that car. You might need it. No, I don't, but I know who's screaming over there, and she's kind of a screamer anyway. So, $600 gold. Eugh, I hope not. Every channel that relates to a certain subject wings it from other channels. Yeah, and that's okay. So back to that. That's one of the reasons why I do the channel the way I do, and not necessarily follow other channels, because it's not because I don't think their subject is good or their topics are good or that their information isn't good. I mean, all that, like, I'm totally cool with. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm true to myself, and that the information that I'm bringing to you is from my own thoughts, my own creation, my own ideas. When I started doing that, I ended up like drifting long away from everybody else, right? But it turned out that I wasn't too far from being, fairly accurate on my predictions on a lot of what was happening here, especially when it came to the bullwhip effect. I mean, I was calling out the bullwhip effect a year before anybody else was, and then all of a sudden, Michael Burry gets all the attention for it, and I'm like, yeah, even the people who know me, who knew I called out the bullwhip effect, weren't giving me credit for it. Like they weren't calling me up saying, hey man, why don't you have me on and say, and talk about this bullwhip effect that you called out a year ago before anybody else did. Well, whatever. I mean, it's not like, I'm not crying over that. It's just like, it's just like, it would have been nice to have like, a little bit more credit for that. And it wasn't like even me who was calling it out. It was the fans who had called it out from the descriptions that I was talking about within the lumber market. And they're like, when I was saying, describing what I was seeing, it was the viewers who were saying, hey man, this is the bullwhip effect. Especially, I wish I knew who it was. It was one person who had said it, straight up. It was like, what you were describing is the bullwhip effect. And then I went and looked at it, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it was. Until then, I had heard of the bullwhip effect, but didn't know what it was. After that, I was like, man, this is exactly it, and this is taking place throughout the rest of the economy. I wish more people knew about this and would talk about it. And everybody was just more stuck on money printer, go bird, prices go up. All right. Interesting thought. Yeah. Simon is like Michael Burry in '08. Well, I mean, it was with the lumber market, right? It was with lumber, and it was with a lot of like some of the merchandise that we knew that was stuck out there on those freighters. When you have 100 of them piled up out there, that's not a shortage, it's stuck, right? There's like a shortage is when you really have a shortage. Okay, so for example, there was 2 major times that we had like inflationary scenarios. Like the late 70s, right, was a major one, and back during the war, right, World War II. And these were inflationary scenarios that were taking place due to shortages. And the shortages in World War II, and an issue that happened back in the 70s. Now, these were 2 like kind of different things, because like everybody says, like wants to describe the inflation scenarios that we are experiencing here over the last couple of years. They want to relate it to like the 70s or back to like World War II and what happened then. And it's not the same thing, because like back in World War II, we had shortages, but it wasn't shortages due to a supply chain breakdown where you just weren't able to get these products through the system. You had shortages because there was a war effort taking place, and all the products and production and everything went to that war effort and then got consumed by the war. It literally was a shortage. There was nothing there after the war consumed it. So it was real shortages happening, not this fake shortage that we experience here in the United States or around the world when they cut the supply chain. That does create a shortage, but it's not like a legitimate shortage. The stuff exists, it just can't get through the system, right? So World War II created a shortage that was not the same as the shortages that we were experiencing now, although the inflationary scenario that came from it was somewhat similar. In the 70s, there was an actual dollar destruction taking place. Like, people are fearful of the dollar destruction, but we know if you just look around the world that there is a strong dollar taking place, and it's actually destroying nations, causing them to go hungry. Just take a look at the article down in the description. So we know the 70s was a little different from the inflationary scenario that we're experiencing today, because in the 70s, they actually did have dollar destruction, and to the point that there was no real demand for the U.S. Treasuries, in the sense that there was something called Carter bonds, right? Like the administration at the time, Jimmy Carter, the Treasury had to sell Treasury bonds that were due golly, I can't speak today, due in German marks and Swiss francs, right? So instead of being U.S. dollars that were due, it was German francs. Like, this is what they were selling U.S. Treasuries in. Very much like Sri Lanka selling their debt in US dollars, or China selling debt in dollars, right? These debts are due in that particular currency that they sold it in. And in the United States case, because the dollar was so, like, hated, not wanted, the interest rates that they paid on borrowing in Swiss francs and German marks was much better. It was one of the first times that negative interest rates were actually applied to bank accounts, like to savings accounts. Not here in the United States. States? What did I just say? Not here in the United States, but actually over in those Swiss bank accounts, right? Because the United States, the people here were like fearful of it. They were like, man, I want a Swiss bank account where I can protect my money, protect my purchasing power. So they started opening up these Swiss bank accounts. The Swiss are like, hey, man, you know what you're doing here is you're causing our currency to grow incredibly strong. And now our exports are sucking from this. We're tired of it. Stop depositing your money in our banks. If you continue to do it, we're going to charge you a negative interest rates. And that's exactly what they did. It was one of the first negative interest rates that were applied to bank accounts. Was happened back in the late 70s on those Swiss francs, or on the Swiss bank accounts. Check it out. It was an interesting story. This is the stuff that you have to know, like, think about. Like, these are reasonings that, like, you can't compare the dollar destruction today to those times, because it's not the same event. Yeah. All right. I think yes, up to matching of the company. Okay. Why not? You're buying cheap. You guys must be talking about stuff. Okay. Cops think he probably lives as a homeless in his car. No, I'm actually kind of famous here in Astoria, and all the police know who I am. So they know exactly what I'm doing in my car, and they don't question it. They know who I am. Like, hey, bro, I know. Yeah. Let's see here. Robert Kiyosaki is no longer recommends homes for investment. Heard you talking about getting more homes. You may want to hear him out. Well, okay. I march to my own drum, right? So he may have words of warning for it, and it might not hurt to listen to those things. But if you see your opportunity, I wouldn't go off of somebody else's recommendation. I mean, you go off of what you think is right. And that's the way I operate. Like, I mean, I am not afraid to come out here and say exactly what it is that I feel and think, right? And even if it, at the risk of being wrong or being, like, looked at as a fool for some of the things that I've said, it's what I believe. That's why I'm coming out here and saying it, right? But if I didn't believe it, then I wouldn't say it. And that's why I'm not, like, I mean, it is not easy, right, to try and think, man, I want to have a channel that's popular, and I want to be able to have conversations and stuff like this, and to not think, what is it that the fans want to see? Right? Like, that crosses probably every single YouTuber's mind. What is it that the fans want to see out there? And if it's like, to me, thinking of like, okay, if I put a video together that looks like this particular way or something like that, it's not authentic. That's not me being me. Like, it might be a good creativity coming out of my imagination that's putting that thing together, but it's not being me. And that's what I'm putting out here, is me being me. So I'm not trying to put out a video that you guys are going to like. I'm trying to put out a video that I think you guys are expecting from me. And that's me to be me. And that's why I say the things that I do and stick to them, right? I'm not going to change them unless I see something that has a reason to change my beliefs on things. You know, I mean, I mean, you know how hard it was to say that there's going to be a strongest dollar that you could ever possibly imagine during a time there was like nothing but hyperinflation scenario expectations coming on. I mean, it was like one of the, it was difficult. People like, were unsubscribing to the channel every time I said it. It was crazy. Soon as housing drops, I'm buying one and renting mine. It's about location and cheap taxes to make good money off rental. Yeah, and I think it's probably best to really understand the market ahead of time so that it becomes intuitive to you. You're not like, jumping in with best expectations, but it's just like, you just have this feeling amongst it that I'm going to do this. This is it. This is time. And this is the right move for me. And once you have that feeling, you know it's right. It's just, you just go for it. Let's see, what time is it? 5 o'clock. Okay, I'm going to give it like another 15, 20 minutes, guys, because I got to go call bingo here in a little bit. So, hey, if you're anywhere near town, come over. Oh, wow, TMC, thank you so much, man. True, true. Have discussions with people that have different opinions. Seeds of thought can be planted that can let one see different views than the ones we were indoctrinated to grow up. Indoctrinated beliefs are hard to overcome. Yeah, and I totally agree, TMC. Thank you so much for that $100. That is very generous of you, man. Um, and that's really where it comes down to, like, having ideas as opposed to beliefs. I think that came from that movie Dogma. You ever seen that movie? Where, anyway, it's like Kevin Smith movie. Anyway, I think inside of that, one of the characters, Serendipity, she says, it's best to have ideas and not beliefs because beliefs are difficult to change, but ideas are easy to change, right? So once you're stuck on a particular belief, like, you have convinced, like, there are so many people out there who are hardcore COVID believers, like, need to wear the mask. You're some sort of, like, evil creature if you don't get vaccinated and put a mask on and stuff like that. And they stick to that. Like, even to today, they still will believe that, even though there's plenty of people out there who have given up on the whole idea of it, and they're sick of it and they don't want anything to do with it anymore. There's a few people out there who are just going to be stuck on that belief because they were so adamant about it during the time that everybody followed their belief, that they will not change it, right? And it doesn't matter if they believe it or not at this point, they're still stuck hardcore on it. And so the rest of the people can forget about it and, like, say, hey man, it's about time that you just go ahead and stop spreading your beliefs, on this whole thing, because nobody cares anymore, and there's no changing anybody's mind at this point. But yet they're still stuck on it. Why? Right? Why are they? If they're that stuck on it, start a YouTube channel and see if you can grow an audience, right? And change minds that way. Like, I think about that when I see people out there trying to be an extremist. This is something that I found out about extremism, especially when I see people protesting out there with signs and stuff like that, that most signs are not persuasive. In fact, most protests are not persuasive, and they don't do anything but confirm the opposing belief, right, onto their side, because they just don't appreciate the obnoxiousness that comes from these protests. However, if you truly want to change people's minds, you have to be persuasive. You have to be able to, state your opinions in a way that somebody is actually going to listen to it. So when I think about, like, being a protest and being an extremist, I'm doing it, right? This is my protest. This is my extreme moment, right? My extremism. This is me trying to bring out what I feel is the beliefs that we all need to have. And it's not my beliefs. I think it's beliefs that you need to take on, that occurs within the monetary industries here, like banking industries, the finance industries, the mortgage industries, all that stuff. Once we have a good grasp on it, we can start making decisions for ourselves. Like, I'm not trying to tell you what to believe. I'm not trying to say that, you shouldn't believe that there's a hyperinflation scenario coming. If that's what you want to believe, then believe it. Go for it. What I'm trying to tell you is what I believe in the evidence that I have found for it, and I think these decisions that I am making for me and my family has benefited me. Like, I'm progressing. I feel like I don't feel like I'm going backwards. I feel like I'm going forwards. And anyway, that's where we're going. Invest in your dreams. That's it. Like, very much so. Where are we at here? Thank you, composite operators. Thank you for the $20, 20 pen. Where's that from? A lot of my coworkers from California bought a second house to rent out in these last 4 months. The occupancy has declined from 60% to 10% and now have to sell the house for a huge loss. Wow. Have you seen something similar? I haven't, but I can see something like that happening. I mean, that could be possible. That's why I'm not jumping into the game yet, right? Now, I couldn't tell you where things are going to go. If we see unemployment rise, I could see where rental properties may have an issue with it. And the Federal Reserve has promised to get the unemployment rate to go up. I mean, that is like something that they said they want to see happen. So if that's the case, then you could see where housing prices come down, especially for rental income properties coming down for people who are just not able to afford the rent, right? But it hasn't happened yet, right? And so it's still not there. And I'm still wondering, I was just like, what is it going to take in order for this to occur? And we're still waiting for it to happen. Now, I'm not jumping into rental properties, but I am looking at them, and they do seem to be fairly attractive for the conditions of the market right now. Like, will it last? I don't know. Your buddy had an issue, so that could be a growing issue that takes place throughout more parts of the nation, and therefore, it wouldn't be a wise decision. Is it or not? I don't know yet. Okay. um, Dream big. This is not a rehearsal. That is so true. You know, everything that, like, I mean, I think somebody said it once. I did a video talking about this, because when I started this channel and it started to grow, like, the idea that it was going to go big and popular and I would be invited to go speak at a convention, like an economics convention like the Rebel Capitalist. I mean, that was so far out of the idea, but I was just like, let's go for it. Let's see what happens. Let's like say yes to every interview. Let's do whatever it is that we need to do in order to make this channel grow and make it all happen. And it was amazing when you shoot for as much as you could possibly get. It was just like, what is it that I could possibly do? I ended up on stage in front of 700 people for the first time in my life, doing something like that, talking about economics, an environment that I have no business being in. I have no formal education. I'm not a financial advisor, never worked in the banking industry. I have no wealth. I never came from a family of wealth. I mean, I'm talking about stuff that I have no business talking about. But yet here I am doing it, right? Shoot for the stars. What was it? Shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you end up amongst the stars. That's the truth of the matter. Like, go for it all. I had a buddy. This is funny. Like, I used to have the opinion that I would just take what I needed, right? Like, no matter what the situation was, I would just, like, if somebody says, oh man, there's like all this abundance that's happening here, just take as much as you want, right? As much as you want. And I would only take as much as I needed. Like, I would take just that. Like, I don't need any more than this. There's plenty of abundance for everybody else to have what they need. But I had a buddy who would take it all. But I can have as much as I want. Cool. I'll fill the truck. I'll fill the truck until it's all gone. I'm taking it all. It's all mine, right? And that's the attitude that he had. No matter what the deal was, he was going to get the best deal. He was going to get the best upper hand of everything that was ever possibly accessible to him. He was going to take it. And that was his mindset. And if you gave him the opportunity to do it, he would do it. And he wouldn't hesitate about it whatsoever. That was the mindset that he had, and he always had an abundance. Like, it was amazing. He never was without a vehicle. He was never without, food. He was never without the things that he needed. He would always, and it was amazing how he did it. It was like, I mean, you've heard me talk about this guy before. He would sit on at the island, his kitchen island, on like Facebook sell sites, Craigslist, anywhere else, and find ridiculously low deals on stuff, like good deals, and then offer them like even stupid less deals on it. Like go and like actually talk to them and pick up like cars even cheaper and all these items. And then he would flip those items. Like in the same day, he would like double his money. And he would laugh about it. He was like, dude, it's easy. I'm like, how do you do that? And he would tell me, he's like, dude, you watch me do it. You sit here and watch me do this every day. You should do it too. Right. And I just didn't have that gift like he did, you know? Or, and it wasn't the gift, it was the mindset. Take it all. Take it all and as much as you can get. And that was like, to me, it just seemed so greedy, but it wasn't. It was just like there was the abundance and he saw it and he would go for it, you know? Alright. I do own 10 acres, need to get further from the city. Yeah. You will only achieve what you limit yourself to achieve. Yeah. I mean, if, you know, what did like Ford say? Whether you can or can't, you're right. You know, I mean, whether you think you can or can't, you're right. And that's just the thing. Like, no matter what it is, like just even this channel, for example. I mean, just the things that I just said. I mean, I'm I barely graduated high school. I have a hard time reading. Economics books, I've read two things in my entire life. The Creature from Jekyll Island and Cantillon's essay on economic theory. And I didn't sit down and read them. It took me a long time to get through both of those, like months and months of reading to try and like, you know, to try and actually retain the information within these two books. Everything else I learned, I studied from the internet off of like the Federal Reserve's websites, listening to other economists out there, reading articles. This is how I was able to do it. And without any ever sitting inside of a classroom, I was able to achieve this economics channel. I mean, think about it. Whatever it is that you have an interest in, you can do it. You can grow it. You can make it happen, no matter what it is. I mean, just take this channel for example. Take, you know, just it's about commitment, and that's the other thing. Like I was so committed to this channel. I was putting out videos like I was as if I was making money off of it before I was making money off of it. Like I mean, daily videos practically. I mean, what was driving me was the viewers' comments, and you know, they're you know, mostly it was like, hey man, I love what you're doing, keep it going. That type of thing was like, I mean, it was like drawing me. It was like it grabbed a hold of me and it was just like, dude, do it. Look at what they want, you know. And I'm like, okay, you know, I guess I'll read another article and talk about it. And that's, you know, what I started doing. It was amazing like what came from it. So I encourage everybody to, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be YouTube, but go find that worthy goal out there and go for it, you know. Money is still cheap if you want to borrow. Learn about good versus bad debt. Take advantage before rates get higher. Yeah, the good debt versus bad debt thing. I mean, it's been, you know, I've been teaching my youngest about that, young Freddie. He knows about good debt versus bad debt, and excuse me, guys, instilling that thought into him at a young age is really important. As he grows up, he's going to really, like, a lot of people just don't even understand what happens to him when they start taking out all this debt and getting heavily indebted, credit cards, or student loans, or, you know, mortgages and stuff. And then they don't realize what a burden this really is. My kid understands, like, there's two different types of debt, right? At 8 years old. That's pretty cool. Like I don't really have to teach him much else. He just knows that there's two different types. And so there's going to come a day when he knows that he's going to take out debt and he's going to question himself, what type is this? That's something that most people never do. Like, I mean, there's people who do it. I mean, the people who talk about good debt versus bad debt and understand the difference, but most people never question that. They just like put it on the credit card, buy the, like sign the deal on the mortgage or whatever, buy the car, and never question like whether or not they are doing good debt or bad debt and if they should actually be going this path. All right. I went through college and hated my career. I love my blue collar job. Um, I do too. Like, I really honestly like doing my job. I like the sales. I like the customers. I like the interaction with the other employees. I like my job. I really do. Um, Is there other more ideal jobs out there that people could have? Sure. But, the challenge of knocking out a sale, like to me, is ultimate. Like I love doing sales. Sales, being in a sales position, being a salesman is and it's weird to think because I don't even get commissions. It's just the satisfaction of being able to provide a customer with the product, knowing that it was a quality product and that they were appreciative of it, of the whole experience of it, and I got it to them for a good deal. Like that whole interaction of everything is a very rewarding experience for me. Like I enjoy that. And then when customers come back and they show me their project, like they show the pictures of what they have done, and how proud they are of their projects. I mean, that's like, it's very fulfilling. I mean, it's actually, it's nice to see it, because most of the time you just make the sale and then that's it. You know that they're building a gazebo, or they're building a sauna or something like that, but you never see what it looks like and you never get to hear about it. Once it's completed, it's over and then they're gone. But every once in a while they come back and they show you the pictures of it, and it brings that whole sale, the experience, the conversations that you had with them, it brings it all to like a finality, a final. It's just like, wow, look at what happened, and that's pretty cool. So I do enjoy the sales position that I hold. I'll stick with zero debt, and all debt is emotional. I understand I can get 8% here and only pay 3% on a loan, but waking up owning no one is priceless. Yeah, I agree with that. Boy, this poor girl, she is just losing it over here. I feel bad for her. But I totally agree. Being out of debt is probably one of the greatest feelings in the entire world. It's just like, I told you guys about it. Like when I finally was able to relieve all my debts and be done with it, no credit card, no anything to anybody. It was like everything, like all the view was better, the food tastes better, like everything about life all of a sudden became a more enjoyable thing for me. And like it was something that I didn't ever want to give up again. And I think about like the people who are like stuck in debt from the time they graduate high school. Like they took on debt like right away and never lived their life debt free. Like the entire time they lived their life, they have never lived debt free. And when you do that, you have like a pressure that's constantly on you. It's like being in a toxic relationship almost, where after a while you don't even realize that you are in this relationship that is draining and mentally deteriorating or something like that. But this is just your normal life, and you think, well, this is the way that everybody lives. There's no reason why I should feel like I am anything, like I should feel any differently than anybody else does. This is just the way it is, and everybody lives this life. But not knowing that you don't have to do that, right? You don't have to have a constant pressure that is on you all the time. You don't have to carry that weight. Once you do get out of it, you will be amazed. Like driving $500 cars are just fine, right? You don't need to have a $50,000 car making payments on it, although you might for 10 minutes, right? Or, if you really enjoy your experience, you might want to do it for the hour that you do drive, right? Love today's live stream, man. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Oh God, that poor girl. It's poor Shauna. She is not doing well. Is this channel about ideology of gold? No, it can be. Sometimes we talk about it. Yeah, that's Shauna. She has a rough time. She's nice, but she's just like, she's been out on the street pretty much since I think forever, and she doesn't do well. All right. From an investment standpoint, how does one prepare if a world war were to materialize? From an investment standpoint, you get into cash or gold and get into something like Bitcoin or whatever. If you believe in the United States is going to survive that war, then you would want to be in that particular currency, right? Or that location, however you do it, whether you physically be there or invest your money or get into their currency or get into their debt or do something. You find the winner that you think is going to be there and you invest with them. So that's how you invest for a war, right? But you don't know who's going to be the winner and all this stuff. And everybody says that America's going to fail. I seriously doubt that. But anyway, people do. So would you want to really get into the dollar at that point? So if that's the case, then you want to go to gold, right? Because gold is really the only other thing that you're going to have to is going to separate you from everything else out there and protect you from like, whether or not a nation fails or gets attacked or whatever. None of that stuff matters if you have gold, right? And it's not to be a gold ideology thing. It's just that's what it is, right? Bitcoin can do the exact same thing that gold could do, except that you have to rely on electricity, and that's not necessarily something you want to do if you're in a major time of war, because what's the chances of you having electricity 100% of the time? Like none, right? So you'd have to have something that is physically in your hand, and there's really nothing else out there except for that. In that case, you are speculating, and there is no investment at that point, right? So what are you looking to do? Pick out the winner or buy an insurance policy? All right, that's me. 40 veteran PhD, 100K in student. Okay, I'm 40 veteran PhD, 100K in student debt, desperate or despite being, sorry guys, despite being a war vet, I was pre 9/11 guy. I vaguely remember colors being brighter, but Simon's absolutely right about debt. Soul crushing. It is. And crackheads, yeah. It is soul crushing, and that's the bummer thing about it. Like, once you're out of debt and you live out of debt, like, once you had a debt that was too, like, this burdened your life, like, it held you down for years because you just simply couldn't earn enough to even make your bills, let alone try and pay off your debts. Like, you just thought at some point in your life that you just, like, there's losers in life and you're one of them and you're not going to be out of debt. Like, that's, I mean, I hate to say it about myself, but that's what I felt like. It's just like, dude, you're never going to be out of debt. Don't ever think about owning money or having money or anything like that. Just, like, raise your chickens and grow your food and be cool with life, right? That's really how kind of I looked at it. But then when I made that decision that I was going to give up drinking and get out of debt, and literally walking $20 down to the bank and putting it on a $9,000 credit card bill, like, it didn't seem like I was doing anything, to do it, but I changed the mindset. And once you change your mindset, everything changes. I no longer thought about myself being like, a deadbeat broke. I thought of myself as having money flowing to me. Like, thought of myself as having very low monthly bills and having a high income, and trying to condition myself so that that would be a permanent thing, right? And so the moment that I was able to start buying stuff, I didn't, right? I saved the money. I started investing into things like Bitcoin and gold and stocks, like, some stocks. I just, fairly new to it, but I was very cautious on where I went with it, and I didn't go crazy going and buying toys and stuff. Like, I mean, the only thing I've really purchased that was like even remotely frivolous was a big TV for my family. Like, I finally went and bought like like I bought something. It was like I was so proud of myself. I even told everybody at work, I'm like, dude, guess what? I bought a TV. And they're like, oh, all right, good for you, dude, because I don't buy anything for myself. I never buy anything, like, except for the experiences, which I do enjoy with my family. That's the only thing that I am, like, right now seemingly willing to spend money on is watching my family, enjoy the experience that we're having, like, together as we do stuff. And most of it is actually traveling. We're stuck in the car together, which I think is the best part. It's like they can't go anywhere. They're like stuck with me. So guess what? You get to hear me talk. What time is it? I gotta go yet? Oh, gee whiz, guys. Okay. I'm gonna have to bail out of here because I gotta go call bingo. Oh, that's what I was gonna tell you. If you happen to be in the area, bingo starts in about an hour or so. So head on down to the workers if you're in the area, and he does his STI do bingo. Does STI? I don't know what the STI thing. But yeah, anyway, go down to the workers. It's under the bridge in Astoria, and you can experience the whole bingo event. Yeah, experiences. Still rubbing that last one in. Last. Yeah, I sent my man Scratchy there. I sent him a picture of the spruce goose, and he said that was one of his on his list of things he wants to see in his life. So yeah, I'm sorry, brother. Yeah, I did have to rub that in a little bit for you. Stream the bingo. Yeah, I would love to stream bingo, guys, but not necessarily an issue came up, but before it became an issue, I decided to end the streams and take down all the videos that I had posted because there was a little bit of a concern about intoxication in the background, and people were not like necessarily appreciative of that. So like I said before, it was an issue. Like, cause no, there is no issue. Like there's nobody in trouble. There's nobody like bummed out or mad or anything like that. But before it became an issue, I decided to stop it so that I could redo this in a more proper fashion, because I think the bingo live streams were excellent, and I would really like to do that again. I just need to be a little, I don't know how the word is. I shouldn't say cautious, because I don't think that's necessarily the way, but I need to be a little bit more deliberate in how I do the streams to make sure that there's no like background content that is like not appreciated on to the live stream. Does that kind of make sense? So I'm not sure how to make that happen yet, but once I figure that out, we'll go back to doing the live streams, because I think the bingo live stream was just so much fun. It was like one of the funnest things that I had been doing for a while, so I would love to get that fired back up again. Thanks, Simon. Missing meat bingo. Yeah. Let's see here. Simon, should I spend all my cash on building a house or put 20% down on getting a construction loan? Man, that's again, I don't know, man. That's a tough one to try and I don't know. That's a hard one to call out on. I don't know, man. I would say just follow your instincts on it. If you can do a lot of the work yourself, if you can do a lot of the work yourself, I think that's probably going to be your best opportunity into the future when it comes to building a house. Like, as far as interest rates, where they're going, what the value of prices of homes and stuff like that, man, that's anybody's guess on what's going to happen there. But putting the work yourself into the home, that's way valuable. That is super valuable to the value of that home. So if you can figure that part out, I think that's probably the best way to go. Okay, I gotta go. Uneducated economist, you let me know.